This is the part two video. Now we're going to take both of those charts and put them together to make this bi-wheel. And we see how this each chart then talks to the other person's chart to get an idea of compatibility, harmony or disharmony in the chart. So I like to see where some personal planets fall in the houses of the other person. This just lets you know what areas of life will be significant to your being part of his life and him being part of your life. So, I think what stands out first is that his moon in this chart falls into your fourth house. So there's this comfort there. There's this feeling of meeting someone and feeling like you're at home with them. And that's really significant because the moon is naturally ruled by Cancer, and so is the fourth house. So there's this common ground here that either you both have similar paths, like maybe your childhoods have similarities in some way, or that you both have the same needs to be nurtured, a familiarity on how you were nurtured in the past and what you're looking for to feel this nostalgic support. But there's a past connection here in the sense that it's a comfort. It feels like when this happens, it feels like you've already known this person for some reason. They feel like home a little bit. So I really like that. And it's a domestic feeling, almost like when it comes with a partner that well, you kind of almost feel like you could start a new home with this person too, because there's this baseline. The roots are almost feel like it could already be there. And the fourth house is a spiritual house, so you never know if you believe in past lives. Like sometimes there's this indication then that like, did we know each other before? Is this bec do we feel so familiar because we have been? So I think that's a really strong point. I love that. I think that's beautiful. And also his ascendant is in the fourth house too. So who he is feels comforting to you in some way that there's that familiarity again. Does he remind you of somebody from your family? Does he feel like he could be part of your family? Does he have the same values and outlook? Did he go through similar things? There's this whole sense of who he is reminds you of home. So even if you didn't meet at home, he doesn't know your family. There's something about him that feels like home to you. And of course, that's huge for building a future, feeling like you really know someone's past and they actually remind you of yours in a comforting way. Um, Also here, I think it's interesting that his Mars lands in your seventh house. So if we're talking about compatibility, Mars is a big one for attraction, like the spark, the drive, being sexually attracted to somebody, and then what the sexual chemistry could be like. So I think Mars falling in the seventh house is great for that. There is sexual attraction there. There is a desire to not stay in the friend zone. There is some type of physical attraction and desire to become physically intimate with each other in the relationship. And Virgo's not the most aggressive sign, but it's almost like an intellectual attraction in these people. But in the seventh house, there can be a lot of heat there. It doesn't matter the sign. There is heat there. There's attraction and you can feel it and you almost feel like you just physically want to touch each other. So I think for a relationship, that's a good thing. There is a tendency here to also see the Mars signs of competitiveness and where assertiveness becomes aggression. But I think that that's healthy in a relationship. There is some type of fire in between you two. So Mars is our friend in synastry in the seventh house. I feel that way. So I think that's a good sign. I also like that the North Node is in the seventh house. Some reason that you two are meeting each other. this is not a touch and go situation where you just move on with your lives afterwards. It just signifies that you two coming together means something that is putting you both on the path to where you're supposed to be headed. So even, we're never in control of how long things last. You know, it's life is life, but when you have this North Node in the seventh house, you can guarantee that you'll never be the same, that this is something that is helpful towards where you're supposed to be going. The you that you don't know yet, but you yearn to be, it's powerful, and you use each other to help get you both on that right path. And I think it's interesting in this year of 1998, the nodes moved, right? So in March, the node is in one sign, and by November, it's in a different sign. So you don't have the same nodes, which a lot of people born in the same calendar year do have the same nodes, but you actually don't. They're different. And so you're doing different things. But when the relationship comes together, you're both being set on the right path towards those things. So those are very strong points in the chart right away. Um, I think there's a few things outside of just looking at it like that that are strong. But I do see that Uranus is on the ascendant, so that's significant. I think Uranus on, I almost didn't talk about it because it's not a super personal planet, but I think in synastry it is significant in the way that Uranus is really electric, right? It's electrocuting everything it touches. It's the spark of genius, but it's the spark of excitement and change. So to me, when I see this, it's like, okay, maybe both of you just showed up into each other's life unexpectedly, or maybe it shows that it's not about how long the relationship is. It is about just that moment of this, like, higher power led experience. And that is the point. That is this moment in time of euphoria or excitement. And again, I think it mirrors that reflection of the nodes that neither of you walk away the same. You've seen something brighter, you've touched something that sparked you more than you have been before. It's It's a lot about um like enthusiasm. There's a lot of excitement around this connection. And if nothing else, Uranus also is saying that you both, it's on the ascendant side. You both still want to be independent people in this relationship. So I think that's really important, even though the outer planets aren't always so reflective of who we are because they take longer to move. It's more generational. So, of course, you two being close to the same age are going to have similar outer planet lineups. So you won't hear me talk about that a lot. But since it's on the angle of the first house, it lets me know that you two both have independent lives of each other. We saw that already being your nature with your Venus being in Aquarius, that you tend to be a more independent person anyway. You're not going to be the clingy girlfriend type. That's just not what your chart says. But it looks here that then he appreciates that. He values that too. He also is looking to be independent in his own life, which is great because when you see a Scorpio stellium, you don't know that right away. You think somebody wants to own me, that sometimes Scorpio gets the bad rep for that. But here it looks like he can appreciate that you still want to be your own person, and maybe he respects that. Maybe that's part of the deal for him is he's not looking for that area of his life to be um so codependent. He's not into this codependent situation. And I think that's great about the Mars and the North nodes in the seventh house too. There is like, we still have drives like as a group. We're excited when we're together and we know this might be leading us both to where we need to go. But it's not like the mushy codependent energy in there. We're still our own people. We don't have the same nodes. Where Mars, we're probably driven for other things. In Virgo, we both are trying to be useful in this life. It looks like there's a lot of motivating each other, supporting each other, but not being so codependent on each other. So I really like that. I think that's a strength. And then we have here the sun squaring the ascendant. So your ascendant squares his Scorpio sun. And I think that just adds more interest in here. I think an Aquarius rising person likes a challenge, and I think a Scorpio sun person likes a challenge. He's really interested in seeing what else is there. How deep of a person are you? What's underneath all those layers? In Aquarius, they square each other because they're both fixed energies. He wants to go deeper, and you want to go higher. What else is he thinking? How advanced is his thoughts? Where else, like, could he blow me away in this conceptualization of things that I've never even thought to think of? So you both like the idea of hanging in there to get more out of the connection that you've already invested in. You're not, neither of you are going somewhere once you've already decided that somebody's worth knowing more for whatever reason, even though it's in opposite directions, you're both putting in the time and the work. You both have the ability to be loyal and stay to get the whole experience of somebody. So although they square because they do it in different ways, there's friction there. You tell him that is all I'm thinking right now, and he says, but what else? How tell me how you feel deeper than that. And you're like, I just told you everything. And then you to him, you're like, well, what else? Like, what if this? And he's like, well, that's, I that is it. That's where this thought ends. And you're like, well, no, like, but what if? So you guys just want to go more in deeper directions. He wants to go deeper into how you feel about something, and you want to go deeper and higher into possibilities of out potential outcomes that aren't even there. So, but it's intriguing to each other. You like that you both want more and that what you see isn't always what you get right away. Like there's interest and the that friction creates sparks. So in synastry, a square isn't always this challenge in a bad way. It can be a challenge in an exciting way. When synastry charts fall flat, it's because everything is either smooth or not even communicating at all. But here we have his sun, his external expression of who he is, and your ascendant, the energy that you manifested into yourself when you came into this world. They're talking and they're creating friction with each other. They are sparking together. So I think that's a positive, and it just makes it worth the risk for you guys. Like, hey, I don't know if I want to commit, but maybe I do because like this seems so interesting to me. This is worth the risk. These sparks are worth it. You had some other things with the sparks flying here with your ascendant that I thought was interesting was that your ascendant sextiles his Pluto, and I think that is also like a very spark energy. So when we think of Pluto, your Plutos are conjunct because of the time you were born. So that is not interesting. What is interesting is that your ascendant is in a really tight sextile to his Pluto. And that's just a big, like, sparks flying kind of energy. So Pluto is very magnetic. When someone has a Pluto situation in a synastry chart, we think of like a magnet attracting. Like you can't get out of his magnetic field. He's just so like um just like pulling you in to his energy. And it's a really like, okay, forget whatever else I was doing. this guy's walked into my life and like now it's like all about him because it's just he has this like magnetic field that's just too strong to walk away from. And touching on your ascendant, anytime you touch an angle in synastry charts, it's really powerful. So, above a lot of other things going on between you two, the fact that that is such a tight orb here of separation. So, it's only a 1 degree orb that's very strong. You're going to feel like he's grabbing your attention in a very like sexy, intense kind of way. And he really likes that whatever you have going on, who you are, how he met you, whatever door you have to walk through to get you to know you more, he likes that. The way you present yourself, your signature of self, your style, how you speak and react to new situations, all those ascendant things. He likes that about you and he wants to be around it. So I think that's really strong. It's like a very romantic, synastry thing. And it's in a positive light. So I think that is just another sign that you two have a lot of sparks between each other. So this relationship is exciting and invigorating, like all the good things. So where where sometimes we think, okay, well, nothing really so far has said like sealed it in long term to me. So that's where I would say, I like to see what Saturn's doing. And although your Saturns are close because you both are in the same like generation, they're not super talking to each other a lot here, right? So I don't see a lot of interactions with tight degrees. We could widen orbs and make things work, but when I'm doing a synastry chart, there's so many things going on. If you think of all the planets and luminaries and angles talking to each other, you got to bring in the orbs pretty tight, or else you have this whole laundry list of possibilities. So I keep them tight. So in these tight orbs, you don't see a lot of Saturn talking to anything. And so that just lets me know that this isn't something that necessarily has to be a forever thing. The Uranus, the spark is strong, the Pluto is strong, the attraction is strong. But as far as this is the one and done end all be all, it doesn't look like it has to go that way. So synastry, I don't think always is like this is what's going to happen. It's not predictive, but it's just saying what feels natural and could be an easy way to go, right? Because you always have free will. And for this, it doesn't feel like it has to be something that's forever. I don't see a lot of Saturn, which is kind of like the glue that even if things aren't going well, you kind of feel stuck together. And I don't see that. So I think that could be a positive thing. The free will is strong in this relationship. We could or we could not. There's the attraction, but I think the strong wills of you both make it that you're never going to be glued to somebody and it be against your will. So I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing. What could be a challenge is where your Pluto is opposing his moon, which I think is interesting. I was waiting to see this since you two are both born in the same year. Your Plutos are close. So his Pluto in his natal chart, like in the last video, we see that we have this tension with him in self of how he feels about himself and how he feels about his not self, which is his relationships. And I said in that last video, I said, well, just be careful around that because there's things that lurk under the surface with him where it can just kind of build up and then explode emotionally because he feels like his partner is in this tug of war of emotional control. So when I was saying that in the last video, I'm thinking to myself, well, they're born pretty close together. It's probably going to show up in their synastry chart too. And here it is. So what houses it falls in for you two is in the fourth and the 10th house. So now your Pluto is involved in this. So in this relationship, then it is you. There's no getting away from that. It's saying that between the two of you, then you can have this emotional drama when emotions are boiling under the surface and no one's saying anything, and then it just comes out in these like dramatic explosions. And you don't want emotional drama a lot in a relationship because it takes the fun away. But if all things else are considered, like it doesn't have to be a negative thing. Again, the planets are talking to each other. There are strong feelings there. So you're kind of at this point where you just have to consider to yourself, well, is that more exciting to me to have this potential for emotional drama in either direction, really euphoric or rocky emotionally at times? But in a love relationship, some people are excited and refueled by that type of drama, that tension in a relationship. For this particular aspect, it can be more about dominance, the tug of war of who's really in control here. And it can be, playing to these Scorpio stellium ideas of, I don't want to be too emotionally vulnerable or raw. And he has this this trine with your ascendant and his moon, so which is a very positive aspect here that I think is going to help this tension. So where he on the whole in everyday life is concerned about people emotionally taking advantage of him if he gives too much, because that kind of is the Scorpio energy anyway, plus it's in his chart again. Was he hurt by that? A man with this going on with the moon and the Pluto, people will call that like a mother wound sometimes. Like, does he have a rough relationship with his mom and he's carrying that into his future? When it comes to this 10th, fourth house, there's ideas here then in like the mother, father roles. Is he reenacting between you and him then? Whatever played out between his mom and dad? You could toss those ideas around with this in these houses in his chart. There's some type of possible history with him and his parents that you want to make sure that you're sidestepping and not replaying again in this relationship. So I would just be curious to know about him, if it was my boyfriend, what was it like growing up with your mom and dad? How did that go? Because whatever he's carrying from that might be a reason that he's kind of guarded a little bit emotionally because he might think that that's what happens in relationships. And then you don't want to have to play out that for him again in a negative light. So you want to then pivot a little bit and see, okay, well, my ascendant is trining his moon. That's very powerful. He can be emotionally vulnerable around somebody like that. And you have the perfect contact with that. An Aquarius rising person, they're not really surprised easily. You kind of excitement, chaos, upheaval, eccentric stories, different lives. Like you're about that. That's fine. Like Aquarius rising isn't gonna toss out whoever's in their basket if they hear something a little bit different. You actually think that's more interesting. You like complicated people. Like that's more exciting to you than you see what you get kind of people. That's why this whole Scorpio stellium works for you. He's interesting and you like that. So he's going to learn that. And his Gemini moon is going to understand that he can put his feelings to words for you. The more you two communicate about whatever is his past and what he emotionally needs, the more this relationship works because the air is strong in connection and communication and don't do this alone, do it with me, we can do this together. And that's where your Pisces moon is on board too, like I said in the last video, that two energy, the two fish, let's do this together. Let's grab his two-person Gemini moon and let's go to the Aquarius two waves where I'm concerned about the whole group, and let's be a group. Let's do this together. There's a big chance here that he learns through this relationship that he doesn't have to do it alone. He can share his emotional needs and baggage with somebody else. And it's not in a codependent way. Air is not like, hey, let's have a pity party and let's sit in this together and hide from the world. It's like a, hey, give me your history and give me what you need. I am an Aquarius doer innovator. So we can live out the next page. We can turn the page in this book and do things the way that it should have been. There's a lot of potential for healing in this relationship. Aquarius is the change that he needs to go ahead and now experience a healthy relationship and not relive whatever he thinks a fear or an actual truth of his past that was played out. So this is like I think the perfect way to for him to work through that. But working through things doesn't always mean a smooth ride. So that's where you get in this relationship is there's a lot of potential for growth. And is that what people always want to do? No. Sometimes they see a trigger and they run the other way because that's not something that they're ready to deal with. You both are going through Saturn returns. Saturn in Aries is a time in life where we are going to go through changes and we're going to see what was done to us, and then we're going to see what we want to do. And sometimes we are with it and sometimes we're not. So I think the fact that you're both meeting each other during your Saturn returns is interesting. Um, whether or not you already know each other, I don't know, but to be considering a relationship during two people's Saturn returns is an interesting time of life. Things are changing. We're realizing that what was done to us is not how we have to go forward in life. And we realize this accountability that, well, whatever my next 20 something years or 30 years is going to look like, when I come back to this next Saturn return, I'm going to realize that it was because of everything I did or didn't do. I'm not going to be able to say it's because where I came from. So to start that journey to like really like adulting is an interesting time to come together because it looks like maybe there's some healing from the past that needs to be done. I mean, what is Saturn today is at 10 degrees Aries, so there's time. It's not like this is happening today. This is not the day of anybody's Saturn return, but once the sign moves into the sign, it's the general theme. You both are in this general idea looking to your futures of, well, what do I want to, where do I want to be in the next 30 years? What didn't I like about the past 30 years? So I think it's good stuff. It's a good time to be considering like where are you in your own journey to be in a relationship? What are you really looking for now? And the there are more aspects, right? So we talked about the spark and the nodes being in the houses. I feel like the attraction is strong. What I didn't see a whole bunch of was the Saturns talking to anything in particular. What I didn't see a whole bunch of was any like Venus Mars interactions. So we get the sparks of Uranus, the sparks of Pluto. We get the spark of Mars on its own in the seventh house. We get the potential for a lot of emotional connection with the moon stuff that we talked about. I did not see is a whole bunch of Venus interaction on either side. So where we go to really come together and speaking on our ability to be in these relationships, like our discernment for choosing and being seen as the person in the relationship. Um, don't see a lot of that where where it's not being seen is not an issue. It's just saying that it comes in different ways. So I think like the energy in the room of like this Pluto and Uranus is like trumping the Venus energy. But you can still feel it with your Venus in Aquarius, I think works really well with everything I said about the ascendant and the moon. And although your Venus in Aquarius is 20 degrees, so it's not in that trine with his moon, it's still in the same sign. And it's part of a stellium for you that includes your ascendant. So this Aquarius energy in you is super strong. This I mean, you might go back and forth between like, am I an Aries or am I an Aquarius? Because you have so much of this Aquarian energy in you. I mean, Pisces too, but when it's on your ascendant like that, and Uranus is the chart ruler, and that's on your ascendant too, I just feel like you're very Aquarius, which works really well in this relationship, is why I'm saying that, because then we see it's it's wide, and I told you like to keep things tighter, but you do see that Aquarius sun, or that Aquarius Venus talking to his Scorpio sun and his Scorpio Venus. So, there is that spark there. There's that friction there. There's the two fixed signs meeting each other. In love, are we going to do it my way or are we going to do it your way? And I like that you're making me question that. I like that you're making me think about, like, do I want to do it that way or do I want to try it your way? I think it's a conversation to be had. It's a new way of looking at love. There's things that this person does that makes you feel really at home. And then there's things that really excite you in the other direction because it's unfamiliar. And I think that's exciting for you. And I don't know um, if for the in reverse of that is for him, it's a challenge more because a Scorpio Venus person likes to, when they finally do, I'm assuming that he is going to be invested in this because there's a lot of things that lead me to believe that. And then they'd get to where sometimes they you don't know always that things are wrong until he's already psychologically considered all angles himself. So sometimes in love that can be tricky, and that's why Venus has a hard time in this position because a lot of the relationship then is going on behind someone else's eyes, just in their own play, and they can push out the other person, and it's just kind of like, well, wait, like I'm here and I'm part of this, so like if you're feeling a certain way, like let's talk about it. So that's where your air energy is going to work out really well, so that this Venus Scorpio person doesn't have to feel like alone in whatever they're feeling that like they think is the truth about the relationship. You want to help pull them out of that. I'm right here. Tell me how you're feeling because maybe that's not what's actually going on. Maybe the answer is simpler. They tend to complicate things. So, and that can be beautiful. I actually really enjoy Scorpio and Venus people. They're intense and they mean it when they mean it. And then you're like their whole world, and no one could ever change that in their mind. They're not interested in gossip or what they think somebody thinks about you. They don't care. They've decided. They're loyal and they're deep and they just are all consuming. And I think with the Pluto energy, you're into that. And so I think it's great. And I don't love when people think that they're tragic, because they're not. They're complicated, but I think that's a good thing sometimes. And then I think your Mars and Aries is going to be great for pulling that out because although they don't really talk to each other in the chart, they're ruled by the same energy. And the ruler of Aries and Scorpio is Mars, and that's in the seventh house. So the more you can pull him out of his head about anything, if he's looking like he's in that Scorpio stellium of, I'm just gonna bear it myself, you don't need to know what's going on in here. Well, you can use the playfulness of the assertive Mars, get him moving, get him competitive, get the spark going, and then like see that he opens up a little bit more. He doesn't have to carry the whole world on his shoulders. He doesn't have to be so lost in his own world. You can pull him out of that. And I think that's the answer here with Mars in the seventh house. I like that. But I think it becomes like a more physical relationship when Venus isn't super chatty. I think it's like less about like the soft, um like poetic, overly romantic, and I think it's more like Mars energy. Like you guys are physically attracted to each other. You physically like to do things. There's like sparks and fire and like let's go. And also, I think you're super interesting, and I want to know everything that you're thinking. So, like, there's a lot of layers here, but is it like the soft, like, hold hands and watch a movie and, the dinner and the movie kind of relationship? I don't super feel that. I think you guys are both doers, and I think you want more action than that, and I think that you can find that in each other. So, I think I'll stop here. Feel like I had some notes and I think I touched on everything. Oh, actually, sorry. There is one more thing that I liked. It was the Sun trine Mercury because I was thinking the more that you can talk about things, the more things work in this relationship, right? Every relationship, really, communication is key, right? So your Sun trines his Mercury, and that's really important, and I like that a lot. It's almost exact. It's like 6 to 5 degrees, and it's in that fire, and I love that because I'm like, oh, there's the Mars energy again. Like it's the fire that is the relationship. You guys move on sparks. Are we gonna put the spark out, or are we gonna let it grow? There's a lot of like passion here. And then here you can speak on that passion. They're both in fire. You both are inspired around each other. This is how you pour gasoline on the fire is through the way you guys talk. Sharing ideas about what gets you excited and motivated in life is going to be really helpful. And it's a trine. This is easy. You guys find it easy to talk to each other, and that is a really great gift. And then the last, you do have to touch the seal of good luck on this, which is always important to know. Your Jupiter trines his sun, and it's very close. So at 13 to 12 degrees, that's 1 degrees, and it's water. So there's this deep emotional connection, good graces being put on this relationship. And that is kind of just like it's not longevity, right? It's not, this isn't about if together forever, but it's a good luck seal. Like you can trust that you guys know each other for a reason. There's like Jupiter blessing of like you don't have to worry about that. Like if you're both together, like you can trust him and he can trust you. And I just think that's like the window to walk through for a true connection in this relationship because Scorpio stelliums, they want to know that they can trust their partner. And in this, he can trust you, and he actually is better off for knowing you. And you feel like this relationship is like guided by something bigger than both of you. And you can trust that too. So I think it's definitely like made in the stars, like destined to meet each other, and definitely growth here, definitely excitement. I mean, I think it's worth the risk. I mean, I'm never going to tell you do or don't do anything because that's just not how I am. But I think this chart is saying that it's definitely interesting and it's definitely worth the risk, and there is the good luck seal on it. So, okay. So there's a lot to consider. So let me know if you have any questions, and I'll stop here for the sake of time. But good luck to you both.